Mr. Justin Fields himself. And quite frankly, Combs, he looked pretty stellar out there against, third and fourth stringers that probably will be bagging groceries next week. But that's here nor there. He still looked pretty impressive with the talent he was playing against. How do you think his showing was this weekend, Combs?
I thought it was great. I mean, look, as Bears fans, we've been relegated to watch some of the worst quarterback play in the history of the NFL throughout the life of our organization. And to see a guy who can make reads, who can check down, who can escape pressure when the pocket collapses, and make things happen by throwing on the run, it was a breath of fresh air. I do got to pause a little bit. And, I mean, he still made some mistakes. There was still,
it's his first NFL game, right?
He went to go spin, and he fumbled the ball. They recovered, he recovered his own fumble. But he learned from it. He even said after the game, he said, I think I'm going to retire the spin move. And so it's just things like that. And so, look, I was impressed. I still think that he should start week 1. However, I no longer think they're going to start him week 1. Right. I think it's going to be week 4. I think they're gonna end up starting in week 4, and I don't think the record matters. I just think that they're gonna get them through that first gauntlet of games where they play L.A., Cincy, and I believe it's the Browns as well. So they gotta get through those first 3 games, and then I think that they'll bring him in. I think that he's absolutely ready. He's absolutely the best quarterback on the roster. I mean, there's nothing. Look, people are like, oh, well, you only saw 2 series from Andy Dalton. I've seen an entire career from Andy Dalton. I don't need to see much more to know that Justin Fields can do things on the field already that Andy Dalton cannot.
Right.
And so I'm excited to see the kid play. I think he's gonna play, by week 4. I don't think it'll be much later than that. I would like to see him start week 1 because, look, let's be honest. This is a really tough schedule, and you're not going to the Super Bowl anyway, So even if you do start Andy Dalton, and say you're just like, oh, we're going to ride this thing out with Andy Dalton. Say he comes out and wins a couple of games and whatever. You sneak in as a wild card team with Andy Dalton as your quarterback, and you lose in the first round. What good does that do you?
Same thing does that do you? Well, I mean, they did it last year, and they got Justin Fields, right?
But you're right. But what good does that do you in a time where you can just bring in Justin Fields? What if Justin Fields does the same thing? Because I'm telling you right now, if you're going to a playoffs with Andy Dalton, you're a contender with Justin Fields. It's just that simple. Look, I know you're high on Andy Dalton. I know you like Andy Dalton a lot. You talk about him all the time. I've seen enough from Andy Dalton, an entire career where he's never even proven that he can win a playoff game. I don't need to see that anymore. Chicago has had this quarterback and Andy Dalton our entire franchise. We want Justin Fields now. Yeah. We want the good quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to your point there, Justin Fields, I think, is arguably the best quarterback on that roster right now. We saw him doing things that a Patrick Mahomes was doing, a Lamar Jackson. Like, I believe they had the stat tracker on him. He hit like 20 miles an hour. Can Andy Dalton hit 20 miles an hour on a scramble? Maybe falling down from a plane skydiving. Like, that's about it, right? I mean, he isn't going to hit no 20 mile an hour, but
I heard somebody saying the announcers on the Bears radio call said he's running so fast he has to wipe off his visor because bugs are hitting his windshield.
Nice. Yeah, so, but the one thing that kind of scared me a little bit is maybe Justin Fields had too much success his first game, because if you listen to his post-game interview, he said everything was moving slower. Stop.
Okay. Don't be that guy. I talked about this last night with Wayne G. You saw the meme that they put on Facebook. It was half of the quote. The entire quote was a boost for his defense. He said everything seemed to be moving slower because I practice all week against our defense, and I think that they're faster than Miami's defense, so everything was moving slower to me.
Okay. Basically, what he was saying, everything was coming easy because the Bears had the best defense in the league. Come on, man, the Bears don't even have a top 10 defense. So
stop yourself right now. Michael
What?
Buckheister.
No, but
The Bears don't have a top 10 defense in the league.
Probably not.
Are you out of your mind?
They might slide in at number 10, but definitely not higher than that. Hell, give me the Lions defense over the Bears defense any day of the week. But that always kind of scares you. Like when you get this early season success, like you don't come to work as hard like the next day.
Yeah.
I mean, like
I don't think that's a problem with this
him.
kid, man.
Right.
I hear that his work ethic is great.
Yes.
It seems like him and Andy Dalton get along great.
Right.
So and don't get this isn't a slight at Andy Dalton, but at some point you already know that this kid is taking over.
Yeah.
At some point
He has to know
this
he's in there
season,
to hand the reins over per se.
He's a stopgap. And so if you're Andy Dalton and you don't feel like you're a stopgap, say, look, I don't want to do this. Give him the ball. Send me somewhere else.
Yeah. Well,
Do it. Because you still got Nick Foles to be your backup, and Nick Foles always a better backup than he is a starter, right? So
I don't know. You were screaming for him to start last year since like week 2.
because we had Mitch Trubisky, which I can't wait for this weekend's preseason game. Mitch Trubisky versus the Chicago Bears. I really hope that him and